day 4. Hello friends, I'm Colonel Failure and you're back in Eco with Bad Company, and this is the Colonel's Journal for day 4 in our bid to save the planet from near certain destruction. Now, I've managed to get rolling on my second floor, and perhaps more shockingly, the election has taken place for the town mayor. The runoff was between myself, the Log King Vargan, and my neighbour Pixelator, who withdrew a little towards the end of the campaign. The mayor won. The mayor won. That's a ridiculous thing to say. Of course, the mayor won. And I refer to the mayor not using myself in third person there. No, Vargan won, having bribed just about everybody with an unlimited supply of logs. And as you can see, I've still got a healthy amount of demand for logs going on. And also I have rather reluctantly opted to switch from my own currency to the Vargan credit. The mayor has indeed managed to lock everything up entirely. My primary reason for switching credit is so that I could actually buy things, because every shop other than mine, and there are now about half a dozen different shops within the town, is using Vargan credit apart from me. Which is, it's fine in that people have to trade with me in order to get food, but what's less fine, of course, is that it means that I can't really buy anything unless people are selling it to me directly. So I'm making a minor amount of fuss about this in order to just keep the status quo, because the Vargan unlimited credit line is potentially troubling. But it's only a matter of time now before we actually have a mint and we can have a currency that we can all rely on. One would hope. Anyway, as you can see, the house is taking shape. The second floor is perhaps a step too far to maintain things, but I have aspirations for the biggest house, and I'm going to pursue them. Now, of course, I've not just been sinking my time into extravagant house building. I've also been spending quite a lot of time exploring the map and looking for locations that will actually grow a diverse range of food. And as you can see from this waypoint here, I've already set up a bean field that should help secure the bean futures for those members of Bad Company who have a bean-based fancy once in a while. And of course they all do, because the recipe for charred beans, or I believe as they're called, campfire beans, is particularly splendid. And for those of you who want to make the recipe at home, here's the quite straightforward method to do so. You're going to want some beans, and then you stick them on a campfire and then set fire to them. A little while later, bada bing, you've got campfire beans. And then you can charge pretty much whatever you like for them after that. If that sounds familiar at all, it's because it is. It's exactly the same recipe as setting fire to other bits of vegetables, as accomplished so far. But fundamental to my success in getting the bean recipe secured is actually locking down the locations where these vegetables grow, because what I don't want to happen is for other folk from town to stumble across one of my fields and just kind of go, oh look, free beans. No, not free beans. I work long and hard in order to track down a location where these flipping things will grow, and therefore I shall secure this for myself. And then I will sell you the beans quite expensively. These, of course, are not magic beans. These are just regular. I mean, I may charge magic bean prices for them. If you have a cow, we can certainly negotiate on that front, and some kind of trade could take place for my magic beans. Now, there is one downside of planting here, is if you've got a handful of logs, like I have, you've got to stick them down before you can plant everything. Otherwise, you just end up sticking logs all over your fields, and then you've got to replow the thing again, which is pretty much a drag, basically. But the good thing about beans is one of those seeds where the nugget of goodness is in itself. the thing you need to replant in order to grow some more. Now the yield I'm getting at the moment is about 8 beans per plant, so as you can see it's returning fortune on me on a regular basis. So pretty much every day at the moment I'm heading out into the wild on the hunt for my crops. Now for those of you who are still nervous about the beets situation, we are making a little progress. As you can see, they're not all alive. Some of them are still dying, and it's because the location I've got for beets is not perfect, and I haven't invested the time fully in going out and finding a location where they'll grow. So at the moment the beets are still growing in my backyard, and if you're very lucky, at some point in the future I'll give you the recipe for charred beets, which is pretty much a fundamental for those of you who want a balanced diet. It is pretty good, but that's a fairly sorry looking field we've got going on right there. But when you come down to it, what you're going to do is you're going to explore the world using the map layers here. So at the moment I'm trying to find somewhere good for rice, and as you can see from the heat map over on the left hand side there is I'm in the hot spot right now. So what I want to do is I want to clear the area out first, and then we'll field this up accordingly. So just get all this clobber out of the way. I've no idea if most of these bushes can be eaten or turned into a hat, or I don't know, or otherwise monetized in some fashion. But right now it's in the way of a particularly vibrant spot of rice growing paddy. Not that it is particularly paddy-like. It's more or less the same forested area where you're going to get your mushrooms to grow and your fiddlehead ferns. Nothing wrong with a fiddlehead fern. I tell you, I make a goodly buck or two out of selling your fiddlehead salad. So tasty, and it's suitable for vegans as well. In fact, the majority of everything I sell is suitable for vegans at the moment, because the hunter is charging quite the pretty penny for his various meats, and as much as I like to offer a balanced diet to my customers, I want to keep the prices within reason. Now, once you've got all of this ploughed, of course, you want to get your rice planted, and much like the beets, I've somewhat struggled to find a sustainable position to place rice in, but this one feels pretty good. It's directly in the hot spot. The downside is that the downside is that rice takes a very long time to grow. Different plants have different gestation periods. Oh yeah, I speak all the lingo, me. And there's no way of knowing with some plants whether it's fully grown or whether it's only partially grown. And with your skill being somewhat erratic, where you pull up a plant and maybe it's got one kernel in there that you can flog, or maybe it's got 6. Well, you have to hoik one out of the ground before you know whether you've got any goodness or not. And until your skill level increases, sometimes you end up pulling half a dozen plants out of the ground before you decide, actually, these aren't fully grown yet. Because if they're not fully grown, you don't get anything. But I'm using my standard spacing technique here, which is leaving a space in between each plant. What I've found so far is that it does help things grow just a little bit better if you give them a bit of breathing space. I'm doing this primarily because on my first day, when I crowded those plants together quite stringently, half of them snuffed it. So I'm being a little bit more cautious with this regard. But the good news is that I do now have pretty much every crop in a field somewhere. You know what? I'm just gonna bang in as much rice as I can here. Yeah, stuff spacing it out. It'll either grow or it won't, and frankly this is the hottest spot on the map. Anyway, if you swing back tomorrow, we might find out how these grow. If I can be bothered to come back again, it really depends if I think they've grown fully or not. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on it. Chuck a like at this. I'll see you soon. Cheerio.